Nora here, dreamers. And tonight, we're truly hearing from the underground. Down below the Vallis lies a deep, deep mine. And down in that mine live some special little guys doing no harm to nobody. Enter a certain tin-pot hemorrhoid by the name of Nef Anyo. He wants to build a shining palace of prosperity in that dark, damp garden. No regard at all for the folks who have roots down there. You gonna stand for that, dreamers?
Have you ever wondered what makes someone an individual? Colloquially speaking, we usually just mean a person. Perhaps a person who is a tad unique, free-spirited, or even just a little bit strange. In the philosophy of biology, however, the question lingers. The spirit is not so easily defined because the world is not so simple as to cleanly separate the macrobes from their microbes. On Fortuna, sometime after the rise and fall of Normer during the New War, one corpus microbe breaks first ground on a new excavation project, attempting to establish a new foothold and reassert control over the mining colony from underground. The only call that alerts the Tenno to Nef Anyo's latest plot is the Lomi Scent Rising Up event just outside the Fortuna residential district. Within, we find Nightcap, a Fortuna miner from way back. With his retro exosuit littered with fungus, he gives us a lay of the land.
A visitor? Nokko? Oh, let me get the lights. Oh, you're not Nokko. So you're who they sent down to help. Could have been down here a lot sooner. What with these invasives sprouting up again? Invasives don't make for a happy garden. Nokko used to do the weeding. Nokko did all sorts of gardening. Sweet kid he was. Still wonder what happened to that scamp. That's a circle for you though. You can be my gardener. You'll do just fine.
Nef Anyo, ever the fail-son of Parvos Granum, is trying to reassert his control, his dominance over Fortuna, by creating a variety of novelties for the corpus ruling classes. Honestly, it all smacks of Diet Orokin-era diversion, nothing that poses a real threat, so long as the Tenno are ready to step in. His first project is an underground zoo for cross-species development.
Who does this Nef fella think he is? Coming to the Vallis, pretending he alone can make it green, when the roots and fruits have been doing that work since time immemorial. Nef's always been messing with people, but in my estimation, people got it coming. The Vallis' creatures, on the other hand, they don't deserve his ire. We're gonna cut him a break.
Corpus, it is my delight to announce the most wonderful addition to my Palace of Prosperity. A zoo! But not just any zoo, no, a zoo of playful chimeras! Hybrid creatures that my wonderfully creative genetics team is developing as we speak. Hello, Genetics Research Division. How are my chimeras coming along?
Well, that's mucking terrifying, isn't it? We won't be letting that happen.
Like your typical venture capitalist scammer, Nef Anyo is announcing the project and collecting investment long before he even has a product, or any evidence that these chimeras provide either interest or benefit to anyone. In this underground mine, with a population of 0, the purpose of the zoo is merely to curry funds and favor from other corpus oligarchs.
Hello, Tenno. I know you can hear me. It's just one fungal colony. There are others on Venus. Why waste your time on this one?
With Nef Anyo asking us why we are working so hard for this colony in particular, we aren't exactly sure at this moment. Other than generally not wanting to give Nef Anyo a foothold by which he may try to reassert control over Fortuna, or just helping out our new friend, Nightcap. It takes time for Nightcap to explain the significance of the deep mine to us, but even he doesn't know the full story. As we collect various mushrooms while on mission, Nightcap will give us a little ecology lesson about its role in the environment and its effects on people.
Was that a Vonful trumpet? We all better hold on tight then. Bossman's here. You know what to do.
We brazenly pop those mushrooms for a quick snack and a bit of bonus damage for our weapons, at the cost of seeing one of a variety of hallucinations. By collecting these mushrooms and providing them to Nightcap back at home base, we're able to build out the mycological field guide to learn even more, but more on that later.
Devil's Cap. Combat's about to get real messy. This one. This task's important. Nef's poison water is making the sprodlings sick. Need you to find them and get them jumping again. Happy? Now get back to gardening. The sprodlings are bouncing back to health in record time. Here's hoping they're more careful about what they eat next time. The taxmen are using the Vallis animals for all sorts of sadistic business. Think you can put an end to all that? Nef's taken some topside critters hostage. Free those vermig and see that they get out safe. Walk in the park. Those critters almost look like they were having fun. Ha ha, look at you cute little mucker. You're welcome down in the deep mines anytime, you are.
At last we are able to rescue the verming test subjects, and in a way revealing Corpus' incompetence, because they never captured any of the other animals for their genetic research. No time to celebrate though, there are more schemes to foil.
Tenno, you used to protect the Orican 7. Now you fight for this festering scum? How far you've fallen.
Welcome back. Always good to have a mate in the deep mines. Not all invasive weeds are plants. Some got legs, guns, and ranks. Need to be pulled all the same.
This place stinks. Oh, filth grows everywhere. Oh, Commander, kill it all, now!
Too much yapping and not enough listening. That's his problem. Your final target is that commander. On the way, I've got some other work for you.
This time, Nef is targeting the fungi directly, trying to eradicate anything with a spore to spare. To protect the ecosystem as a whole, it's officially Corpus hunting season.
Corpus, the void sees you. It sees you holding back. What more can you give? Remember, my success will be your success. Whether you find those riches here, or in the great beyond.
At the same time, I can't help but feel a bit of pity for the Corpus rank and file, facing death in warfare against us and death in the name of religion from their corporate hierarchy. Greed certainly is the root of all evil.
Looks like we got a fresh batch of invasives moving in. Let's mulch them. One more job for you today, and it's a big one. Corpus boss man's been giving the roots and fruits no end of trouble. Find him and finish him. Absolutely vicious. Remind me to stay on your sunny side. Place looks better already. Come on up.
What is with these Tenno and their obsession with promoting weakness?
The weakness we are protecting are these little guys, the sprodlings. Sapient little mushroom guys that live throughout the deep mines, creating cave art and tending to the fungal colonies throughout. While the deep mines seem to have been isolated from the rest of Vallis, we come to learn that they play an even more important role than we could have imagined. Mushrooms of the deep mine are janitors, the miracle of the thermal towers which create the blizzard that makes Venus habitable, continuing to run after the end of the Orican Empire. Well, they produce a lot of industrial waste. The power of the deep mines is that the fungi decompose the waste and feed off of it. Without them, Vallis would become an unlivable toxic swamp. Eventually, the towers would cease to function altogether.
My Palace of Prosperity will be an impenetrable fortress, where no Normer, Grenier, or even Corpus Usurper will dare to enter.
Too bad for him, you're already inside. Let's get to work.
The Void despises filth. The Void adores order and cleanliness. Do you wish to receive the Void's gifts? Then wipe this place clean!
In this quest, Nef Anyo also reveals the true purpose of the palace he is building, reveals why it is underground.
Merc swarming like invasive pests. Time to show him whose garden this is.
Let me guess. The Tenno? Send reinforcements! Kill the betrayers!
Yeah, roots and fruits miss Nokko. You see, It's hard to live and grow when you've got an army of mercs trampling all over you. Need you to fight for them, like Nokko used to.
Why is my beautiful project so far behind schedule? Can the fierce corpus not eradicate some meager fungus? It's time you gave unto the void once more. With your lives, if necessary.
There he is. Corporate's head priest. Needed to give him a human resources deficit. But first, I've got some other jobs for you.
This place is no palace for entertainment nor diversion. It's a doomsday bunker, a preparation to maintain one's safety and prosperity in the event of a world-ending calamity. The motivation now working in the mind of Nef Anyo is a philosophy called Accelerationism. Now, before we start on this, it should be noted that the term Accelerationism is used for a few different ideologies. While it is in some places used to describe terrorism on the part of right-wing white supremacist groups, and was originally used by left-wing political theorists to posit ways for capitalist social structures to be used to create socialism. Today, however, the most common use of the term accelerationism refers to a set of liberal capitalistic ideologies that seek to accelerate society to a theorized capitalistic or technological singularity. The term singularity in this case is a reference to mathematician John von Neumann's idea of the singularity, which is the idea that human or robotic intelligence will grow exponentially until it creates a radical shift that completely remakes society. An idea that I'm not too much of a fan of for its kind of eugenics overtones. Starting in the 1970s with the philosophy of Gilles Deleuze and Félix Guattari's essay Capitalism and Schizophrenia, which explored the idea that the trend toward capitalism has replaced a mentality of markets existing for the sake of identifying a lack and fulfilling needs with a desire to produce for its own sake, as well as the works of Jean Baudrillard in the late 1970s and 1980s with works like Simulacra and Simulation, as well as Symbolic Exchange and Death, in which he argues that capitalism has caused humanity as a whole to view everything in terms of abstract symbols that have been commodified and can thus be traded for the sake of accruing wealth. The philosophy of accelerationism then tends to split when we come to the conflict between the philosophers Nick Land and Mark Fisher. Land arguing, like Baudrillard, that capitalism has become an inherently determinative force in the human psyche and society as a whole, whereas Mark Fisher, in his work Capitalist Realism, directly critiques the views of Nick Land, points to how these ideas are fundamentally defeatist and unimaginative, unable to view a way out of the abuses of capitalist hierarchies that may be achieved from the actions of communities, the development of law, the innovations in resource distribution and education. Those who follow from the ideas of Nick Land proudly taking on the moniker of accelerationists, while those who expand on the critiques of Mark Fisher continue forward with modern leftist theory. You may have heard the mimetic quote, "It is easier to imagine the end of society than the end of capitalism." Mark Fisher, in the book Capitalist Realism, is where that phrase comes from, the quote attributed as a sentiment he heard spoken by Frederick Jameson and Slavoj Zizek. Now that's a lot, but to oversimplify the history further, accelerationism is essentially the belief that by advancing capitalist theories to their most extreme forms, it will hasten society towards a total collapse, which they have faith will transform culture into a perfected form that will solve all problems. It is a post-Marxist philosophy that hyperfixates on the Marxist idea of the inevitability that capitalism will collapse as a system on its own. It is a deeply spiritual and superstitious field that circles on the unstated axiom that they have faith in a utopian revival thereafter. It is deeply anti-humanist, believing neither in the immediate need to safeguard human rights at all stages for the process, nor the ability of humanity to create current solutions to current problems. It is, strangely enough, a Marxism that swung from a leftist politic all the way back to a far rightist politic, due to embracing a deep existential pessimism. Accelerationism is, in my opinion, capitalism racing towards doomsday, while also trying to safeguard themselves from the initial fallout. Just look at how many tech billionaires have built themselves their own underground, palace-sized survival bunkers, just like Nef Anyo. Accelerationism is part of the reason why we have seen, in the past few years, an assembly line of techno-feudalist scams that sell themselves on being revolutionary technologies that are the inevitable future, so you might as well get on board, only to cash themselves out and pass the burden of the inevitable market crash that follows any bubble cycle onto us. First it was cryptocurrency, followed by NFTs, followed by the metaverse, followed now by generative machine learning algorithms trained on mass art theft, each one a technology based on the same computing power technology that were originally made to advance the medium of video games. Graphics cards. In 2026, we will see tech prices continue to rise as developers of graphics cards reserve more and more of their production to generative AI companies and away from consumer electronics, not just trying to scam us, but scamming nations and governments in the process. Everyone in the upper classes trying to get theirs before the crash, the cost of which will be passed down to us when the government inevitably chooses a bailout rather than take a loss. Just like the market crash of the 2008 subprime mortgage scams, which themselves inspired the creation of this particular cycle with the invention of cryptocurrency as the solution. Just like Nef Anyo, they are seeking to create an impenetrable fortress with which to protect themselves from the world they themselves desire to create. But we are already inside and ready to raise hell.
Who is this? Nightcap! He's not on any work lists or debt ledgers. Find him and end him!
It wasn't always the case that the deep mines were left down here unguarded. Way back when, there was one little mushroom called Nokko who kept things safe down here, the Sprodlings drawing him as the big mushroom on the cave walls. Nightcap reminding us that a mushroom's fruits can't grow big and strong when it is constantly being trampled. And he misses the big ol' mushroom man. He can't keep tending to the garden by himself. He's been down here for so long that he's lost track of how long it's actually been. How long has he been down here? His name isn't even on Corpus ledgers. When did he take the name Nightcap? With the last of the Corpus vanquished, the deep mines are safe for now, but not without one last threat.
Good job. Like I always say, the deep mines is a garden. And like any garden, you gotta pull the weeds. And by weeds, I mean Corpus. You hear that? It's almost peaceful down here. Don't rest too easy though. Always got more work for you.
You think you've won today, Tenno? My resources are bottomless. I will spend you to death.
Spending us to death, eh? Couldn't imagine a more accelerationist sentiment than that.
Mushrooms. Some's good for you, some's bad. Some's somewhere in between.
Hearing strange reports from Fortuna, dreamers. Mushrooms sprouting where they've never sprouted before. In the walls, the machines, in the toxic wastes. They say they're hearing something coming from the vents that lead down to the old decommissioned deep mines. And it sounds like laughter.
In the vents leading down to the mines, a unique fungus can be found, the prince. Though these roots have seen better days, haven't fruited for who knows how long. As the Tenno weed the garden, we also find a new resource called fergalite, a fertilizing mineral that the prince needs to grow.
Oh, that. Yeah, that's the prince. Or will be if we can manage to grow it. Needs fergalite. But that's rare in the deep mines these days, I tell you. I ain't been able to find any of that since, well, I don't remember. Some say the prince makes you dream funny. I say that's just nonsense.
The player has the choice to give surplus to the prince to help him bloom, and when he does,
Don't listen to that trash, mate. Corporate just wants a little fungal remediation is all. Get in, get out, get paid. Easy credits. Right. Something messing with our gear. Sure you ain't been snacking on these mushrooms, mate? Job sure would be easier if these mushrooms weren't so mucking pretty to look at.
Watch the spores! Get back to the airlock!
you muckers! Run! What the hell is that? Hey! Oh, for soul's sake! Who let a mucking kids out here? Hey! Get back here! Stop mucking about with our gear! Like I said, nothing to it. Now, you want to get back out to the garden?
Nightcap was once a Fortuna laborer like any other, one step below Corpus crewmen but still owned by them. He was also working a job, long ago, to come down here and clean up all these mushrooms, and, uneducated to the ecology as they were, chose to use fire as the most expedient means to get the job done, not realizing that some mushroom varieties actually use fire to propagate their spores. The caverns were filled, but through the flames he saw a child running about. He went back in and found himself face to face with the mysterious thing.
Oh, you little mucker! You dumped me mucking accelerant! Smart little mucker. No corporate. Nokko. Nokko, yeah. I'm gonna call you Nokko. All this fungi, eh? I swear it's filtering the waste from the towers. You take the fungi away and, Venus goes all fire and brimstone.
It has come to my attention that some Solaris are refusing work orders in the deep mines. Such insubordination will be dealt with swiftly.
No, Mr. Anyo, sir. Will not comply. I'm shutting down the elevator. Nothing more goes up, nothing more comes down.
Upon meeting this Warframe, though he may not have even known that this thing was one, the little scamp took the canister of accelerant that fueled the flamethrowers and dumped it into the depths. Once disarmed, they began to talk, or at least communicate in some way, perhaps by cave painting. And so the Solaris crewmen gave the Warframe their name, Nokko, a portmanteau of the phrase no corporate in-game, but also derived from the Japanese word for mushroom, kinoko. Nokko teaches him of the role that these mushrooms play in the ecosystem of Vallis, that if the mushrooms go, so too does Fortuna and every living thing on the planet. Taking the message back to his crew, they decide to strike. If they refuse to work, the mine will be safe, but Nef Anyo isn't about to come to the negotiating table. To keep it safe, they resolve to destroy the elevator shaft and close the deep mine for good.
Well, look at you, Nokko. You ain't some leftover freak that some Oregon mucker made in the lab. Don't know how or why, but somewhere along the line, you became the roots and fruits.
I should have never sent Solaris to do the job of Corpus.
Nokko, they're coming. I'm blowing the mine shaft. No more coming in, no more getting out. Just you and me now, kid. Okay, Nokko. Your garden is safe. It's getting dark, Nokko. I don't think I can help you much longer. Oh, yeah. You're trying to tell me that I, good old Nightcap, died down here ages ago? You better be careful. The prince can play tricks on you. He's a funny fella, just like Nokko. But you gotta keep your head on straight. Trust me, you ain't careful, this place will turn you all sorts of funny.
Nightcap destroyed the elevator, trapping himself below ground with Nokko. As the two began to develop a close friendship, he understood the nature of Nokko's existence a bit better. Nokko was once a Warframe like any other, and, thanks to the animation team, canonically the little brother of the Warframe Ureli. What sort of Warframe, and with what kind of powers? Who's to say? But from spending so much time in the deep mines, the malleable body of a person melded with technocytes began to mix with the natural fungus that may even predate the orb Vallis itself, transforming him into something new, a symbiotic relationship between man, technocyte, and fungi. A lichen. This funny little guy isn't Nokko, just the fruiting body. The entire mycelium network, every sprodling, every spring popper, muck bonnet, no, and Warframe that grows here is Nokko. The mycological hive mind that watches over the Vallis from below, the Vallis UnderMind. The same fate shared by our friend Nightcap. Whoever he was before, he died down there. Man cannot live on mushrooms alone, but his body and his mind were absorbed. He too became a fruiting body of the colony. That, or all of this was just one big hallucination from shopping too frequently at the underground snack shack. Either way, it might be a good idea to learn a bit more about the roots and fruits.
The mistake some muckers make is thinking that they're the only mucker in existence. Roots and fruits know more about each other than they do about themselves. You want to survive down here? You gotta come to know the roots and fruits. I used to keep a field guide, collected all sorts of info. Got destroyed the last time corporate got all spicy down here. You help me build it back up? I can help you come to know them all.
You ever wonder who speaks for the dirt? For the untold millions of organisms living beneath your feet. Mushrooms, fungus, microbiota. The creatures that keep the circle of life turning. Nowhere is that life more fragile than the orb Vallis. That's where I'm hearing it from. A voice in the darkness, calling for backup. Dreamers, are you going to answer that call?
Upon entering the Vallis Undermind, the Tenno is bound to see a variety of Corpus crewmen working the mine. Of particular interest is that the crew appear to be fighting each other. Some of them, noticeably, have mushrooms sprouting out of their heads, subsequently mind-controlling their hosts into attacking the rest of the crew. This behavior is reminiscent of the genus of fungi called Ophiocordyceps. A notably large portion of these mushrooms exhibit a preferred growing pattern of using insect bodies as their preferred seedbeds, and the most famous of these is the Ophiocordyceps unilateralis, the same fungus that inspired The Last of Us zombie infection, which displays a unique adaptation to changing the behavior of infected ants to better propagate the fungal colony. These infections are often colloquially likened to mind control, though this is a sensationalized portrayal. But since there's only one lichen in the Undermine, it would be more accurate to say that these are evolved interactions between the fungus and their unwitting insect hosts. That is just one of an almost innumerable number of mushroom references contained in this update, so I thought it would be a fun exercise to go through all of the mushrooms mentioned in the mines. Blister stalk. Poison is in the dose. Use a little bit to warm up your belly, put a whole stalk on your weapons to light up your targets from the inside. So hot it'll weaken their armor. Scour the nutrient processing facility, and you will probably find this guy sucking up the excess calories from the wastes. Much of Venus is still a firestorm. Blister stalk is the embodiment of Venus, a firestorm contained in a fungus. A flaming hot chili pepper, if peppers weren't a boring vegetable. Plants evolved capsaicin mainly as a way to deter mammals from eating their fruits and seeds before they have a chance to spread. By binding with pain receptors in the tongue, capsaicin would drive away most mammals, leaving bird species who lack receptors that react to capsaicin to eat, transport, and fertilize the seeds much further away. We sensation-loving humans, however, found the pain to be a fun way to excite a meal made of boring agricultural grains like rice or early corn, thus making that spicy burn a core flavor in the diets of North and South America, and eventually the world over. Though no known mushrooms produce capsaicin, there is a mushroom called the fire milk mushroom, Lactarius pyrogallis, which is so acidic and pungent that it creates an overwhelming burning sensation if eaten. Non-toxic, but absolutely inedible. Borica. This sour little fella loves to make quick work of heavy metals like the ones used in Corpus equipment and armor. Nokko used that trick on some of my equipment before I got to know him better. The toxic sludge seeping through the forward base keeps the Borica fruiting all year round. Way back I had a mate try to pluck some without using the special tongs. It cost him a very expensive arm and a leg. Now, I always use the special tongs. Our second fruit doesn't seem to be a botanical reference so much as a reference to a pesticide. I believe borica is named after boric acid, most commonly found as a household roach killer and disinfectant powder. The borica mushroom probably looks that drippy because it's literally dissolving itself with its own chemicals. In most other contexts, boron chemical compounds are deadly to fungi, and different boric acid formulations are used as remedies to fungal infections that can form on and in the human body. Devil's Cap. If you need a close shave, then Devil's Cap is your mate. Slap this on your weapons and your enemies better have a tourniquet on hand. Keep a lookout for the Devil's Cap in the labs. Its roots can survive in the most shallow substrate, while its fruit can slice through just about anything to bloom in the most surprising places. Norgi Three Fingers was the first mucker I knew to try and pick a Devil's Cap. Need I say more? By far our edgiest mushrooms in the bunch, these little death sighs look eager to take a swing at you. These actually share their name with the real-world Devil's Cap mushroom, Rubroboletus santanus. These fat, red, and white mushrooms are pretty toxic, so I don't suggest making a snack out of one if you find it. Let's just say you'll be in for a bloody bad time. Dole Button. Unremarkable bloke that won't hurt anybody. It won't actually do much of anything. If you see some of this while walking in the caves, you might as well pluck a few. Dole Button stew. Add 3 handfuls of Dole Button to a pot of water. Boil for 6 hours, add salt. Serve in the bootleg nutrient canister of your choice. The Dole Button has to be the only one on this list that is actually safe to eat. If I had to guess, I would say these are based on the porcini mushrooms, a common food in Italy but can be found throughout the northern hemisphere. Though if you're a grocery store mushroom lover, you could probably substitute whatever one's your favorite. But if you're going to tell me about your favorite mushroom in the comments, I humbly request that you do some legwork and use the scientific name of the mushroom instead. I'd appreciate it. Ferrofungus. This is a parasitic fungus that feasts on magnetic waves generated by Venus's highly active mantle. Does nasty work to Corpus shields too. This mushroom favors the Corpus labs and the many magnetic fields within. Fun fact, Sprodlings love this one, very much drawn to it, and you too should you eat some. The ferrofungus is a decorative little bell of iron mixed up in the mushroom. The higher iron content and iron's sensitivity to magnetic fields makes it an appropriate choice for the magnetic damage mushroom. I tried to research any potential connection between mushrooms and magnetism, but it appears that mushroom-shaped magnet decorations are a popular novelty available for purchase on Amazon. So it was almost a dead end, but a quick search on Google Scholar revealed that some promising research has been done using magnetic fields to increase the fruiting body yield of different edible mushrooms. Warframe really must have done their research on this one. Gamma berry. Radiation doesn't bother me anymore, thanks to this rig. Rank and file Corpus, on the other hand, hits them pretty hard. Makes it hard for them to tell friend from foe. Nutrient processing is the first place I would look for gamma berry. There's not much material on Venus that isn't a little bit radioactive. Gamma berry eats radiation like it were sugar on a sundae. The whole Vallis would glow green without it. I really like the design of the gamma berry, the wave-like patterns on what is essentially an unassuming mushroom shape, but the extra branches give the impression of a satellite dish trying to pick up a signal. Mushrooms make use of a distinct mode of eating from other living organisms, which give fungi their ecological niche as decomposers. Unlike producer plants, which use material from the environment like light and water to make its own primary food source, or consumers, which take in foods to be internally digested, decomposers release chemicals which dissolve surrounding materials to create the nutrients they need in the surrounding environment. And, funny enough, there may be mushrooms that can do this kind of eating with ionizing radiation as well. Certain species of mushrooms are labeled radiotrophic, meaning are able to withstand high levels of radiation exposure. They are able to do this through containing high levels of melanin pigment. You heard right, melanin, the same family of pigments that we humans use to be brown and tan. This is because melanin pigments are able to absorb higher degrees of electromagnetic radiation. The human body uses melanin as sunscreen to protect against against ultraviolet radiation from the sun, but some radiotrophic mushrooms may be using that stored radiation to power the production of energy for their cells. This process is called radiosynthesis, but more research is needed to discover if and how this is happening. Ironwood. This is a mean one. Take this if you need to hit hard and have it hurt. Search the forward base to find this guy. Plenty of heavy metal contamination in that soil for ironwood to chew on. I once saw a rig jockey get hit in the head with one of these. Poor mucker claimed he could see nothing but Wave Rider graphics every time he closed his eyes. Some say the ironwood mushrooms look like a cluster of trees or a range of mountainous plateaus, but I can't be the only one that sees the Pokemon Doug trio, right? Real talk though, they also look strangely similar to the Organ towers in the Orb Vallis and on Cetus. Before my speculation gets too out of hand, we will leave the ironwood mushroom with a nutrition fact. Most varieties of grocery store white mushrooms are an excellent source of dietary iron. So if you're looking to pump some more iron into your blood, the humble mushroom is one way to go. But you'll need to eat a lot of them. Muck bonnet. This one's a toxic mucker, and if you get it on your weapons, they'll be toxic muckers too. Unlucky Corpus have found out the hard way that muck bonnet's toxin does not respect their shields. These ones grow mostly in the caves. They love to drink up all those nurturing toxins in the water table. One man's toxin is another's vitamin. It's relative, unless you're Corpus, in which case the muck bonnet is most certainly a terrible way to die. What is a YouTube advertiser-friendly way of saying what the muck bonnet reminds me of? Let's go with Geiger-esque. Despite the grotesque appearance, I've actually grown to appreciate the role the muck bonnet plays in Fortuna's ecosystem. Rather than producing toxins, it is actually feeding on and collecting those toxins from the environment, which no doubt result from the Corpus's own industrial aspirations. If a muck bonnet has soaked up those toxins, that means they're no longer in the water. The general role of a fungus in an ecosystem is to break other organic matter. So it isn't terribly surprising that some research has gone into how we might begin to create filters out of mushroom craft materials to turn fungal mycelia into natural water filters. If you still want a specific mushroom to compare visually with the muck bonnet, try looking up Sathirella longipes. Before their caps open up, they can somewhat resemble the snake-like appearance we see here. No. I do not like this one. I do not know why, but every time I see it, I say the same thing. No. I have noticed that enemies afflicted with no seem to have the unfortunate luck of attracting way more stray ordnance. If you find this one, it will be in nutrient processing. I recommend you turn the other way. It's like this root has tapped into something I have no business understanding. Now, instead of me studying it is studying me. I'm the specimen. I don't like it. The first part of the design that really stands out would be the double helix growth pattern, yet with their pointed ends, they also make me think of the long feeding tentacles of the colossal squid. But lore lovers will note that the helix shape is both the damage symbol for void-type elemental damage and the hallmark spirals of void manifestations like the plants that grow in Duviri. No could very well be a mushroom that somehow mixed itself up with the murmur and act as yet another conduit for the man-in-the-wall's influence. Reeking puffball. Cover your nose and hold your breath. This foul fella causes weapons to release a noxious gas with each strike. You can find this stinker in the caves, just follow your nose. Note, do not let the Sproglings get into a patch of reeking puffball. All it takes is a couple bites and those little guys will start pumping out a stench foul enough to turn a Kuberdon purple. Reeking puffball is our gas elemental mushroom. That much is obvious. But have you ever wondered why some mushrooms are called puffball in the first place? Depending on the variety, a mushroom can get very aggressive about how the wind picks up and spreads its spores. Some let the wind gently carry them away, while others create cavities that actively shoot out spores in response to physical touch, rainwater, or strong gusts of wind. That's a puffball. Spring popper, a good one for when you need your weapons to explode something or someone into outer space. This one loves the soil in the forward base, lots of trace nitrates and glycerol left over from when the mines were first blown out ages ago. For the record, I never blew up any elevator shaft to keep corporate out of the deep mines, but if I had, I would have used 4.5 buckets of spring poppers, and the explosion would have been glorious. The spring popper is clearly modeled after a firecracker, while also covered in burrs that could help stick the fruiting body to other creatures' bodies, hitching a ride to further fields and maximizing dispersal with its wide explosion radius, with the small setback of also killing the courier. My question is, of course, Could this mushroom be real? Unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, mushrooms may grow better in high nitrate-treated environments, but don't significantly uptake nitrates into their body. The same may also be said for glycerol, so the chances of actual mushroom explosives evolving anytime soon are pretty low. Thorn tooth. This delicious fruit has evolved thorns so sharp they'll pierce corpus energy shields. A fierce defense mechanism to stop hungry snackers. Watch your step in nutrient processing. That's where thorn tooths like to spike out after absorbing all of those minerals. One of the oldest fruits on the Vallis, maybe even Venus. Her kind have seen Venus go through so much hardship, but still, thorn tooth hangs on. Tough as ever. The thorn tooth would make the perfect arrowhead, naturally geared toward puncturing, with back-facing barbs to get jammed into the unlucky host. They also remind me of Neja's spear ability. Colloquially known as hitchhikers, there are actually a large variety of plants with different methods of attaching seeds to animal fur and fabric for dispersal. One of the more violent method is the burr, a cluster of spikes designed to pierce into the skin rather than hitching a ride on the surface. Try as I might though, I couldn't find a species of mushroom that has evolved burrs to transport its spores. The internet is so obsessed with eating these little buggers that it's messing with my search results. I search mushrooms with burrs and I get mushroom burger recipes. I search mushrooms with barbs, I get barbecue. The closest I could find was a Lycoberdon, the wolf fart mushroom, a typically edible variety of puffballs that spike up around the outside of the fruiting body. So despite how unlikely it seems, I'm going to call the thorn tooth edible, though not too terribly toothsome. Though honestly, the spring popper looks a lot more like Lycoperdon, so I'm cheating a bit to find comparisons for these fantasy shrooms. Thunder Button. She's a bolt of lightning. Quite literally. Useful for times when you want your weapon to turn your opponent into a walking arc welder. You will find this one in the Corpus labs where it likes to leech off their power grid. The other roots and fruits seem to work harder and faster when Thunder Button's nearby. Try it yourself if you need to be somewhere in a hurry. Now, how am I supposed to identify a real-world mushroom comparison when the cap is literally a plasma ball? Plasma globe novelty toys are made by containing a noble gas inside a transparent container along with an electrode. The electrode ionizes the atoms in the gas along the path where the electricity finds a grounding point, i.e., your fingers, thus forming streaks of plasma. Some mushrooms, fruiting bodies, and mycelia are capable of producing or conducting electricity, and in the current day there are scientists and engineers working on using mushrooms for the development of flexible circuitry, hopefully reducing the need to mine silicon for electronics. Violet's Bane. She looks like a lovely little lady, but she's packing a nasty viral surprise. Useful on your weapons if you want to engage in a bit of germ warfare. You'll find her sprouting in the caves, often mucking about near reeking puffball and muck bonnet. Her ability to spread viral infections ensures renewal in the deep mine and on the surface. Be careful with this one. She'll get you hot under the collar. I'm talking about a fever, sweats, and seeing things that have no right to be there. To me, Violet's Bane's design is reminiscent of the aliens from Nier Automata, or the messengers from Bloodborne. A mass of little guys looking back at you while you look at them. Though their apparent effects on the Warframe's visual perception are a clear reference to the hallucinogenic properties of psilocybin mushrooms, their appearance reminds me of something else. Sometimes given the nickname of Tippler's Bane, a Violet's Bane looks a lot like one of the family of coprinoid fungi, once their fruiting bodies have opened up to release their spores. But if I were to give that title of copernous mushroom to any on the list, it would be the winter spear instead. Vomval Trumpet, a relic from the Old War, naturalized in the deep mines. On your weapons, this one will make your enemies vulnerable to all sorts of attacks. You'll find this in the labs. It seems to be drawn to some of the more curious specimens in there, the ones from outside the Origin system. Fancy a trip to the plains of Eidolon, but can't afford the ticket? Then the Vomval Trumpet is the next closest thing. How or why they became part of the ecosystem down here, I haven't quite figured out yet. I think I can solve that mystery a little bit. Exploring the various Corpus labs around the Vallis, it is possible to find labs that house captured sentients being experimented on. Between the exploiter and profit-taker orbs and Alid V's sentient amalgams, a lot of Tau biology has wound up in the Vallis after all. I don't think I'm going to have any luck finding a real-world mushroom that looks anything like a sentient, though. So moving on. Winter Spear. You can usually find Winter Spear clumping in the forward bases. She prefers the relative cold there. Watch your step though. Winter Spear makes everything a bit icy-dicey. I remember when Nokko would crush up a bunch and sprinkle the dust on a slope, he'd have the sprawdlings sliding for hours. The winter spear has to be the most whimsical of the mushrooms. They appear to me to be shaped like ice pops, typically made from some kind of juice, ice cream, fruit puree, or just good old-fashioned flavored sugar water. But beyond looking like an ice pop, their shape is also reminiscent of the Coprinus genus of mushrooms, with long thin stalks and caps that look like a closed umbrella. These spores spread by means of a sticky black ooze that mushroom enthusiasts call its ink. In the art for the winter spear, we can see them similarly dripping with a cold blue ooze, making me think that this is where all of Fortuna's coolant actually comes from, or at least where it ends up, and helps explain a lot of Nightcap's dialogue claiming that the UnderMind powers the whole of the Venus colony. And lastly, but certainly not leastly, we have the Arbicep. I believe this weapon's namesake is a portmanteau of the word arbalest, a crossbow with a mechanical crank for pulling the drawstring, and the cordyceps genus of fungi we discussed earlier. As an arc gun, it is quite unique, only ever shooting 6 bullets, and each of those bullet spores representing one of the secondary damage types of the game. In a way, the alchemy inherent in this weapon represents all of the mushrooms we have been collecting for Nightcap's field guide. The Arbicep is an extension of Nokko's own body, in exactly the same way that all the mushrooms are an extension of Nokko. A Warframe is made up of a specific strain of the technocyte infestation. As we learned during Warframe 1999, the infestation as a whole shares a hive mind omniscient consciousness across both time and space. Any given infested thing can be a unique organism with a distinct perspective, such as the Voss and Falm serpents on Deimos, our infested companions, or Lizzie, the electric guitar. But they are all interconnected into the one collective mind of the infestation. Mycelia are often able to develop networks between other mushroom and plant organisms, exchanging signals both chemically and electrically. The oldest and largest living thing on the planet Earth today is an Armiliara ostoyae fungus in the Blue Mountains of Oregon. Measuring 2,384 acres large, the area of approximately 1,665 football fields, and estimated to have been alive for 8,650 years, this one mushroom has been alive and growing for nearly the whole of human civilization. But beyond the massive bodies of a singular megamycelium, there exists networks of wholly different organisms that can only exist thanks to the humble mushroom. A lichen is a colony of algae and cyanobacteria that grow on and around the mycelium of a fungus, symbiotically feeding on the nutrients the others produce and creating as waste products the nutrients the others need. Their interconnectedness creating new forms of protection for the colony and new vectors for growth. Lichens are the original chimeras. In this way, a colony of mushrooms is both like a living organism and like a community. It is my theory that Ureli's little brother, silly little Nokko, once made into a Warframe, encountered the massive symbiote of a mega fungus infested with technocytes that long predated Fortuna and became a single networked organism, a lichen made up of humanity, technocytes, and fungus. The Warframe is not Nokko. Nokko is the whole Vallis UnderMind. The elemental mushrooms, the sprawdlings, the reincarnated Nightcap, and the Warframe Nokko himself, all merely the fruiting bodies of Nokko's true mycelial form. What does it mean to be a biological individual? A coral polyp cannot survive without the healthy condition of the great coral reefs, made of the calcite deposits which the polyps themselves created. The reefs themselves necessary for the survival of all sorts of fish, crustaceans, and marine mammals. A siphonophore is a colony of specialized organisms unique in shape and function that create what appears to mere intuition to be a single animal. The human body is a mass of specialized cells, only most of which contain matching DNA. Mitochondria, the organelle that creates the ATP the body needs to perform other processes, have their own distinct DNA, suggesting that early in our evolution these were a distinct single-celled organism that became a part of that which eventually became us. Our digestive tracts are filled with a myriad of unique bacteria whose cells outnumber the cells of the human body, and without which we would be unable to eat well nor avoid many illnesses. The concept is called holobiosis, the process of a spectrum of different organisms evolving together, becoming dependent upon each other, promoting their mutual well-being. To think deeply on the question of biological individualism reveals that an individual is always an ecosystem, that the freedom to live is something grown through the bonds we forge with others. You know, It takes a certain kind of person to become infatuated with mushrooms, to look at something that is often strange, small, ugly, pungent, and foul, and see within it the potential of life itself to become anything and everything it needs to survive. A fungus, though once thought of as a plant, are more divergent from the evolution of plants than even animals like you and I. We are in the uniquely privileged position to be able to gaze at a mushroom cap and realize that we are quite literally only seeing the tip of the iceberg, that below the surface is a vast network of possibilities, connections, and relationships that create an ecosystem. Life of any kind, humans included, means to be one small part of an infinitely complex organism. To be a mycologist, whether you're a scientist in a lab, a forager on a hike, or a chef in the kitchen, is to have a direct experience of the inherent value of life on planet Earth. So to everyone out there who loves a good mushroom, keep being you. And you thought I couldn't get philosophical about fungi. Take care of yourselves, and stay true.
Deep Minds is a community. Organisms living for each other. Don't reckon we're going to let one mucker ruin it so he can sit down here by his lonesome. Each species is like a person. It's up to you to come to know them all. What do they like? What don't they like? How do they help each other? Help you. And maybe, most of all, how can you help them?
"お前の仕業だったのか?"